1839, the old jail in Wiscasset.
We're at an old jail. Me, Johnny, and Mandy. We're gonna do a tour. It's gonna be mostly history. I might have turn on like Spirit Talker or Necrometer quietly, because I think it's just gonna be the three of us during the tour, so it shouldn't be an
There's
issue.
the old jail cells. There's the old courthouse behind me, and it all was in one. And the offices and stuff, rooms for the guards and all were this side. So there you go. And I got Spirit Talker with an earbud in my pocket, so when it comes through, I'll say what it says when it comes through.
Mine said getting angry.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have it.
I was just in the bathroom.
I would just won't have it, so I was talking that loud.
Ready?
Yeah.
You're not going to photograph me. Harbor. It was filled with boats. This is the deepest water harbor north of Boston, and it doesn't freeze in the winter. And it was a huge boat building location, and it was also a had a lot of ships coming in from all over the world, from Britain, from all parts of the world. And it's a very protected harbor. So, and the whole town was actually built on the fortunes of both the shipbuilding and the ship captains who lived in town. In the late 1700s, this is actually the third jail that was in Wiscasset. In the late 1700s, there was two other jails. The first one was at the Paranormal House. I don't know if you've been there.
No.
It's about, I don't know, like 11 miles that way in Dresden on the Kennebec. And
I think past it many times, I'm sure.
yeah, it's a little off. But you would have driven down whatever this road is when it's not Federal Street. But the original jail was at the courthouse, and it was an officer's barracks because they had a fort there and officers lived there, and they had this great big room that they started using as a jail. It was a wooden structure, and it was kind of problematic because everybody was in this one big room, and it wasn't very secure, and it wasn't very hygienic, and people escaped from it, et cetera, et cetera. So in their ultimate wisdom, they built the exact same thing in the middle of Wiscasset. Wooden structure in one big room. Again, didn't really work, and they had more problems because not only were they breaking out of jail, people were breaking in. They had all these sailors in the harbor. They'd go in there and grab their buddies because there would be sailors that were naughty that got put in the jail. And so
sail away type of thing after breaking them out.
Yeah, and here's a picture of the area before the jail was built. And you can see there's no houses. It's all farmland. It's pretty wide open space because you think 1700s things weren't really working out for them because the jails weren't secure. People breaking in, people breaking out. So they started coming up with an idea of making a more secure jail. Now this is considered after a British model. Instead of having people housed in one big room, they had individual cells. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3 on this side. There's 3 on the other side, 6 per floor. The top floor is actually a much more open space, which I'll explain why in a minute. And then different windows on the second floor for other reasons. I'll explain why in a minute. But the idea was it was more humane to put people in individual cells. And so they copied this idea from the British. And there was a lot of interaction between, Americans and British because, the revolution had just happened and there was a lot of British soldiers and British ships and, eventually the War of 1812, which was 1 year after the jail was built. So, they got a lot of their ideas from England. So this was considered a more humane option. Prior to that, like I said, you have people in big jails, but you also would have people doing things like this. Downtown Wiscasset actually had a device like this where you would put people, maybe their feet or their hands, they're called stocks, and you could come by and yell at them or make fun of them or throw a tomato at them or blah, blah, blah. And they had things like
Just like the ones that they put the head and arms and
yeah.
and
There's
and stuff.
another example here. Hi.
Hello.
You here for the tour?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just starting, so if you guys wanna. Oh my goodness. Did you guys arrive in a small bus? Okay.
Zip
My name's
lasting,
Holland. I'm just starting the tour.
Okay, awesome.
So I was just saying how at the turn of the century, 1800s, they came up with this idea of having this type of prison, and before that, jails were one big open room. They had one in downtown Wiscasset. They had one at the Pownell. Have you guys been to the Pownell courthouse? Okay. So, but let me ask all of you: does anybody know the difference between jail and prison?
Yes. I've been to both, so I know.
Good to know. Keep my eye.
Isn't prison long term and jail is more short term?
Yeah. It's so.
It's more
Primarily, you
relaxed.
go to jail after you've been arrested, but before you've been convicted, you go to prison after you've been convicted, right? So when people say he ought to be in jail, what do they really mean? I think they really mean prison. But there are exceptions where, like, let's say you get picked up for fighting in a bar. They might throw you in jail for the weekend, and you might see the judge for a fine on the Monday. But it's a short-term situation, which this gentleman said. So this is a jail. People would get thrown in here, and then there would be interaction between the Paranormal courthouse if they had a trial coming up, or if the sheriff was mad at them for, I don't know, stealing apples, they would go here. Okay. It wasn't long-term. And there was very few hardened criminals here. There were a few murderers, but I'll explain that when we go through the jail. So anyway, we're just getting to the building of this jail, because the previous jails were wooden in one big room, and people broke out of them and broke into them, which was a problem. And people broke into them. So they decided to build this type of structure in turn of the century, and it was built, and they had to raise funds, and then it was built by 1811. They had to take these blocks from Edgemont Island, these granite blocks, which are about 4 feet thick. They carried them across on barges, and they built this structure. Attached to this, it has a date of 1811, is a house with a date of 1839. The jailer lived at the jail. The jailers were chosen in the town. It was a badge of honor. It was something that they were in as a favor, or as something was considered, like an reward. So the jailer had to live in the house. If he did not live in the house, he not only didn't get paid, he'd have to pay a fee. And I'll explain why in a minute. But so there was always a jailer's house here, but however, between 1811 and the jailer always had a different profession. They could frequently be farmers. They could, have all kinds of other professions, and then they were a part-time jailer. And they would live in this house with their family. Now, the jailer had to live here. I'll explain in a minute why. But the jailer had to live here with his family. And in 1811, or sometime after 1811, the jailer was the school master. He was the teacher at the school. And kids were going to school one day, and they noticed that there was smoke coming out of the roof. And they ran down the hill to tell the schoolmaster that his house was on fire. And they came running back up the hill, and they had to empty the jail of all the prisoners, and that is the prisoner portal right there. That's how they get into the jail. And this is separate from the house, and that's the jailer's office in the middle. And they took them all out, and they put them around a tree, and they manacled them together, so nobody got hurt that day, but the house did burn down. And it was a wooden house, and what did they rebuild it with? Brick, which is like the story of the Three Little Pigs, right? Straw, wood, and brick. So they learned their lesson. Here's an original photo of one of the jailer's families. You can see there's the jail. The door is right there to exit the jail. There was a wooden fence so people could go out in the yard, and there was some farming involved and things like that. And the property of the jail goes all the way down to the inlet. And as I said, the jailer would move in here with his family. And in this instance is the Dow family. They moved in with 6 kids, and we know a lot about the Dow family because one of the daughters, who was 12 when she moved in and 18 when she moved out, kept a very comprehensive diary. And the Dow family is still in the area. They have a farm outside of town. So the kids liked living here. They considered this a beautiful house. They liked living in town so they could see their friends and walk to school and things like that. And when the jailer moved in, he brought in all of his furniture, and when he moved out, he left with all of his stuff. So there's not really a lot of original stuff from the original jailer. However, this family, like I said, is called the Dow family. They lived here at the turn of the century. Can anybody guess how Lakeville Jail was used?
Probably 1900s.
1953.
Wow.
Which I think is, so they use it as overflow for the sheriff's office. This is the county seat, so the sheriff's department is downtown, etc. So in 1954, a woman bought all of the property for a couple of dollars and then donated it to the Lincoln County Historic Association.
Are there pictures inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just asking this gentleman not to take pictures of me, but I don't mind what you do inside. So when Dow moved in, like I said, he moved in with 6 kids, but only 3 kids were left by the time he left. But the inside of this house is set up for the time period he lived here, which was like 1900 something to early 1900s. And I wanted to ask, we have a little scavenger hunt. Do you want a couple of those papers for the kids?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I will look at a picture of you. Are you guys YouTubers? Are you the ones
Yeah.
that say YouTube on the back? Cool. We're YouTubers too.
He's from Florida, and he came up to visit until the 10th. So,
Yeah.
and said we are related at the beginning. It's about to begin right before she started talking. Blasphemy, visitors, name. That's why I said my name's John.
No, I didn't
Okay,
hear
so-
you.
Let's give
Absolutely,
it to
Hazel,
the
Philip, Rome.
three
I need
oldest
closure,
here.
and it just said
And you can work
insurance.
together.
See, it's hard to see what it said
he
previously
doesn't.
Yeah.
online,
Okay,
so
all right, so
I'll send you
here's the
screenshots
pen.
of the
Yeah.
list, and you can.
Okay, so as you go through the jail, you can look up at the pictures and see what you might find in there. Okay, so let's start in the living room. Come.
You guys can go. I'm
Okay,
gonna
all right.
Make sure he gets back to the car.
Sure.
Here.
Maybe I'll be right back.
Just an overview.
Okay, so this is a picture of John Dow, the last jailer who lived in the house with his family. And this space is set up for the exact same time that he would have lived here. A couple of things I want to point out. So it's set up how a family would live during the day, right? So, there's a little harpsichord thingy here. One of the things I like about the room is this is back in the day wall-to-wall carpeting. You would buy this in rolls, right? And it would be this wide. You can see the lines. And then you would sew the strips together in order to fit the room, which I
Funny
thought was
thing.
kind of interesting and weird.
We
Now-
live in a house that's like back in the late 1700s. It was built same way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So this is called a face saver. So if the ladies were sitting here and they were doing their crafts at night, like they were doing needlepoint, or they were mending socks with this little sock egg, you put it in the end of the sock so you can darn the end of it, because you couldn't go to Walmart and buy new socks. So they would be sitting here by the light of the fire, maybe some candles, maybe a lantern, however, what have you. And they would get smallpox or chickenpox, and they would get the holes in their faces from the scars, or they were just wearing makeup, which apparently was not as uncommon as one would think. And if you were sitting here, the makeup was made out of lead and wax, and if the fire was too hot, your face would melt, right? So you would put this beside your face, you would get the heat of the fire underneath, and it would protect your face from melting, which is probably a good thing. Right? So they would also do crafts. probably not by the fire. This is wax flowers made out of probably candle drippings. This is also a craft that they would do. It's made out of an interesting product. Does anybody have an idea what that might be?
Wire?
It's probably got wire in it.
Is it hair?
It is.
Yeah.
It's human hair. So it's so if people died back in the day and you wanted to memorialize them or remember them, you would make things out of hair. And I've seen bracelets, necklaces. In this instance, somebody made a headpiece and it looks like a pin or a brooch or something like that. So in this room is kind of like the family room or the center of the house, which is the dining room, but also the office. It was also the room. It was also the playroom. So these are all toys and items that would have been appropriate in the 1900s at the time. And I like these little books here that we have from this time period. They're called the Goops. And if you were bad, you were called a goop. So there's little poems about kids that were goops, and if they didn't share, they were a bad goop, or they were. So I had a lady come through here, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's why." Here's like sulky goop, dirty Gus, mud Gus, mud Mark. So crying. So somebody said that when they came through, they said, "Oh my goodness, that's why my grandmother would always call me a goop when I was bad," because I never knew why, and I'd never heard of these books until I came into work in this museum.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was a cultural phenomenon of the day, I'm sure. Now, when you were dressing up, you probably had one fancy dress, and this would have been something that was worn by the mother of the family and the Dow family. That's the appropriate time period. Another important thing, in the 1900s or the late 1800s, they were probably teaching girls to read and write. But they did not always in the late 1700s, early 1800s teach girls to write. However, in the hallway, we have a number of samplers for embroidery and things like that with letters. And I was really curious, like, if they don't teach girls to read and write, which I didn't actually realize, were they doing these samplers? We can see them when we go into the kitchen. And so the girls had to do their letters and samplers. They didn't know what they were embroidering because if they got married, linens were very expensive. So they were taught how to embroider their names and initials and their husband's names and initials and whatnot, so that they could keep track of their linen. And something that I also didn't realize is in the early 1800s, late 1700s, they did not use J's. So a lot of the samplers do not have J's. They use G's only, so you're only 25 letters in the alphabet.
Well, G can say just sometimes.
Yeah. So they're right here. They're part of our collection. And then, I don't know if that's on I never looked at the scavenger hunt. Is it on the collection? These samplers right here. They're letters. See, they're embroidered letters that they're sewn into the cloth. Okay.
We did see something like this at the house.
Oh,
We
you
just
went to
went
the
to
Chapman
the
house.
I have a question. Is that the wood carver guy that has things at the Chapman house too?
I don't know.
Okay.
But there's something there like that?
There's an exhibit to a guy who he went to be an apprentice to learn how to make the mermaid or whatever would be on the front of the boat.
Yes.
And by the time he got done apprenticing, he only got 2 jobs, and then they were making boats a different way. So he got into folk wood carving.
I had no idea. Well, I'll tell you that all of the the possessions in the house are purchased to represent that time period. They're all from that time period. However, because the jailers moved in and out with their own beds and sofas and things like that, they, nothing's original. Let's go to the kitchen.
Oh, were you playing that video?
Sorry.
I'm trying not to be in the way because I know how when you
She
want to take a
scares
picture, you want to
It's
take a picture.
probably for following me.
Did you hear my voice curse? She scares people. Time is running
This
out.
is the original kitchen test.
It says.
And one of the reasons why the jailer had to move into the house with his family was so he could have free work. So the wife and the mother that moved into the house did all of the meals for the jail. her family. And I forgot to mention the third floor of this main house. If you came to jail, you and you were a woman, most likely you'd care for your children. So women and children lived on the third floor when they were in jail. So you got 3 meals a day. The breakfast, and I don't know if it's, the midday meal was heavier. I get my dinners and suppers mixed up. I know there's a reference and I don't know which one comes in the middle of the day, if supper comes in the middle of the day or dinner. I can't remember. But you would get 3 meals. The 2 lighter meals were a big square of gingerbread and biscuits and a pot of tea. And then 1 substantial meal would be more like a stew or a soup. So I think it's very unfair that the woman of the house had to cook for the jail, which is right through this door, and for the ladies upstairs with their children, and then for her own family. And if I had 6, well, you have a lot of kids. How many kids do you have?
We have 8 at home. We have a total of 10.
Okay, that's a lot of cooking, which you already
But
know.
I teach them how to cook. So like the other day, they invited someone from church over and made a 3-course meal for them, and I didn't do anything.
Oh, well, you can come
I'm
visit
working
me
my way out of
anytime.
the job.
You can come visit me anytime then. So there are 3 levels of the kitchen in here. This would have been the original, which is the hearth, right? And this would have been the first level of cooking. Then at some point, it was clearly replaced by an iron stove or a whatever, right? So that it vented here. There's probably a stove sitting here and it vented there. And then on that wall, there's a old outlet, and there was probably an electric stove there. And then of course you can see the venting right there.
Right down on the
So
bottom.
the kitchen was used at least through probably the 50s when the jail closed. But let's say you're the original, chef in the kitchen. You come in very early in the morning, you would get a roaring fire going, you would wait till it baked down to coals, right? Then you'd pick up your stove, right? And you put it over the coals, and this would heat up whatever you were making. So, and then you would hang your teapot over the heated coals, and then you would take some of those heated coals, and you would put them in your oven, at the back of the oven, and it would heat somewhat from this side, and then it would heat from the coals. And then when you wanted to know if this was ready to make your biscuits and gingerbread, you would take your arm, and yes. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll tell it for the people in the back. You put your arm in to see if the hair singed. And did they tell you about the dress?
Yes.
That what you did with your skirts?
No, they didn't tell us that.
Okay, so this is what you would be wearing, right? And you're wearing a long skirt, so you would take your skirt, you would put it between your legs, close your legs, so you didn't catch on fire.
I'm a fall risk already. That would be danger.
Right, yeah, the whole thing, but that's like a wick, right? And you have open flames. So then, you would take in that gazebo right there, that's capped, and you would bring water in, and you would probably put it in this reservoir, this lead line behind the fireplace, and keep water, and it would probably keep fairly warm there. And then when you were ready to wash clothes, you would go over to your dry sink, and you would put in here, and you would, agitate it, put a little live soap in here, you'd rub it against the board, you're trying things out. Then you would, put it on the spin cycle, which is the water, moisture out, and then you would put it into the dryer, which was a line outside. This is a lot of cooking for all those men, cooking for the ladies upstairs. And then there was a barn, I don't have the picture right now, but there was a barn behind the jail that, they kept cows and things like that in. And so they would milk the cow, and then they would come over here, and they would put it into this. And you know what this is?
Churner.
Right. And this is called 2-child churner, because you'd have 1 child here and 1 child here, and you'd pour the milk in here, and then if you agitated it enough, it eventually turned into butter, right? So cream turns into butter and mix it up enough, right? And this device is made or was made in Vermont. And this is the fancy one, so I think it costs $15. It has flowers painted on the side. And I had a guy come through here that works in the building in Vermont that used to make these. Now the building, it's the old factories, now it's an IT building. So, or his IT offices were in there. But Yeah, that's a lot of work, making your own cream and all of your own things like that.
Is that a
Ice box? Yeah, but that would have been from the turn of the century, right? And if you come into this room, which is the workroom, you can see one of the industries in town on the Kennebec River was cutting your own ice, right? In the winter.
It said hiding when it said it was the two children who turned the butter.
Yep.
They said hiding right
You
after.
know, slice blocks of ice off and
You're
then
sucking
you
in so
put it
many
on the
bleed.
wheel, right?
Mm.
Now, the Sheepscot Bay here does not freeze, it's too deep. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why it was a huge shipbuilding port, because there was
Emergency.
no freeze. However, the Kennebec River did freeze and they harvested. This is actually an ice house here, so they did use the prisoners and they harvested ice and on straw and then eventually shipped it out. So these are some examples of tools. They did give the prisoners some work experience or training. I know they taught them shoemaking. So if you wear a size, this looks pretty small, this looks like your size, right? And you'd get leather and you'd shape it around with this, let's say you wear a size 4 sneaker.
Sure. I don't know, I have to look every time I do mine.
Yeah. So, you'd make shoes with these leather forms, so they did teach them that. The other thing they did, got granite over from Edgecombe, and this door is supposed to be pinned back, but that's the way people come through today, I haven't had a chance to do it. But if you look up the street, there's edging along the street, granite edging, and they would bring granite over here, and the prisoners would cut that granite, and, the whole town got edging from the prison, or the jail.
Yeah.
Doing that. So, one day, this big mysterious box was dropped off, donate stuff that's in, this was dropped off, it had this cover on top of it.
Okay.
And it was locked, but we didn't have the key, and you could barely move
Busted
it.
open?
Huh?
Did you bust it open?
Oh, somebody finally did. They put it in back, and they found this stuff inside, and there's all these drawers with chisels and drills.
Whoa.
Thankfully. So we discovered that this is a ship carpenter's
Snooker
kit.
table.
So he would go on ships in the 1800s, and he would bring this big heavy box so he could repair things when he was on the ship. Now, this really has nothing to do with prisoners here, although we did have sailors here. But just various things that got donated in here. Now, I don't know if the prisoners made this, but these are things that they find all the time in the streets of Wiscasset. Anybody knows what this might be? It's hollow, it's pointed on one end, and it's got a big hole on the other.
I do not.
Looks
Water
like a garden tool for
Water pipe.
tilling.
Water pipe.
Oh, water pipe.
Water pipe.
So
Yeah,
the
they'll lay
water
the
pipes in
piping.
town, or maybe the sewage, I don't know, but were made out of these trees. And the trees are imported from Georgia, and they were hollowed out and made into water pipes. So it must be
Oh,
some
that's
kind of
awesome.
hardwood that doesn't get destroyed by having water inside of it. Now, a lot of this stuff you see already self-explanatory by what have you, but if you've been down the street, they're called the Sunken Gardens at the corner of Route 1 and Federal on the right.
Oh, we saw it on our way by.
Oh, yeah. So this is where the Sunken Gardens is, which is this hotel, this Hilton Hotel or whatever. I don't know if it's related to the Hilton family. However, this is the last picture of the hotel because it's burning in that picture. But the Sunken Gardens is really just the cellar of the original hotel, and then they just, put something there.
Interesting.
A what?
No, there's no.
I'm afraid to look up there because I'm afraid there might be some bats, but,
You'd probably see some bat traps, so.
yeah, well.
We got
might have.
bats in our house all the time, so we have to catch them with fishing nets or butterfly nets.
Fun.
Yeah.
This is something that lumberjacks used to use in the winter. They'd hike up to where they were doing trees, cutting trees, and then they would sled down on this. And I'm not even sure how that would happen. It looks really scary. I'm sure there was no helmet. I fell off.
You would have to have a lot about
Looks like even harder than skiing. I mean, it looks like a single ski.
Yeah, it does, right? And I guess you just kind of balance with your feet or something like a motorcycle. I don't want to do it. That's all I know.
It's fun.
But and then these
Been
over
here
here are
for
like little
years.
feet or shoes for oxen. And this as well, or these, I guess.
Our
these are
house
for
is built by those.
Okay, splitters. So somebody was
Those
telling
are the
me that
floors of
people
our
would
house.
drive oxen through his grandfather's farm. His grandfather never kept oxen. But every time they would dig in places, they would find like these kinds of pieces because they would fall off the animal's feet as they, oh, this is for winter, I think. As they were going through. So, yeah, all of this stuff was taken out of people's barns in Wisconsin. They brought it here and said, here, take this stuff. I don't know what it is. So that's how we got it.
Do you guys accept more stuff commonly? Do you accept more things commonly? Because we actually have a lot of it in our house.
Wow.
And like the nail right here in the middle, that's what our house is built out of.
Wow.
That's how
Those
old
are
ours
beautiful.
is,
They're
and
like
it's
square-headed nails, right?
yeah, same wood floors, everything,
Wow.
all through our
That's
house.
cool. How old is your house?
It says in the barn 1885, but then we found in the town of Somerville, there's the town book of the history, a picture of black and white when cameras first came out, and it said that was a descendant that started living there in the late 1700s,
Wow. So
and
it's
his
probably, the barn was
grandparents.
probably just built newer, burned
Yeah.
down or something like
And
that.
it's got the blocks, like natural rock wall type of rocks
Wow.
for the basement foundation in the bottom
That's very
even.
cool.
So they did
houses.
funerals in the house, all of that back then, and
Wow.
we live right next to a church now,
Wow.
where it is. So it's pretty cool. That's why we like a lot of this stuff, because a lot of
Paranormal.
it's in the house and everything too. The old stuff, historic and
I love
paranormal,
yeah,
all
that's
of
why I work
it.
here. You know, when I'm not living here, I live in Los Angeles in Hollywood, and I live in a really old house in Hollywood. And you know, it's not as old as these towns, but
Yeah.
old for Hollywood. Yeah. All right, so we're about to go into
Breaking
the jail. And a couple of rules about the jail. First of all, the walls are made out of limestone. And limestone is powdery and it marks your clothes and it's disintegrating because limestone disintegrates. It's a little bit caustic. I have never known anybody to actually be hurt by it, but I would say just don't touch the walls.
And they don't rub on things.
Because it just makes the deterioration worse.
Yeah, those
The
boys.
stairs are a little bit different. Be careful in there. Okay.
That's why I want to like get the historical society involved with our house, because how old it is and everything. We got a lot of this stuff around our house. We're going this way. It just said books. It said breaking wheel. I've been here 400 years, 300 years ago. Snooker table, which I think that was the snooker table. So.
Stand on that side.
You're in jail in here.
Yeah,
He's worried about the pipe.
I'm gonna stop
We
Spirit
got all
Talker
the
real quick to
stairs.
save it.
I just thought hands and
Oh,
restarting.
All right, yeah, these are okay. This is plaster, this isn't the limestone yet. I'll show you this, I think this side is.
Are we going in there?
In a second, yeah. Okay, so I just want everybody to be
I
able to
just
get
didn't
in.
walk too far.
Yeah. So I don't know if they want to see. So these are, all 3 floors have the outer door like this, which is very heavy and thick. And then there's an inner door, which I'll show you in a second. This is the lock, which you can all try. I think it's 12 pounds. And this is, and all 3 doors had a lock like this. This is the original lock and this is the original key.
Whoa.
And now we're going into a narrow area. It's kept narrow for a reason to prevent people from rushing the guard or a group of people. But there is a problem with the door opening outward if somebody's standing on the inside, but there is an inner door as well. So, and just walk down the middle for a second so we can talk about the hallway.
Holland, quick question for you. I might have I don't have a face view of you, but I might have your hands or something in it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm trying to.
It just said Mr.
I just
Edwards.
don't think I learned from the pandemic, so I
I
think.
just wanted to make
There's
sure
the
it was okay.
lock
Small part of the game.
and the door with the key.
For a second. just for a second, we're gonna just talk here for a minute so I can talk about it. And if you wanna try this door, it's heavy and, you know, it's really hard to move. Yeah, try not, you're rubbing, trying not to rub. You know, it's just really, this is the inner door. And each floor has this door, and it's really, really heavy.
She said you guys can go try to touch the door if you want.
Yeah, you're allowed to
Just don't touch
move
the walls.
Yeah, so you try and pull
Door,
it.
not the wall.
Isn't it heavy? Careful of the walls behind you. But it's better to push than to pull. But and then also, this is the original heat source for the jail. It's this is the only one, and it went through all 3 floors, the stovepipe or whatever you call it, and you know, so that was it. So right now it's summertime, it's cool, but in the wintertime I'm sure it's freezing. The window was not covered by glass. We have it covered by glass now. We close it at night to try and prevent bats from coming in. We're going in there in a second. So the granite, I think, as I mentioned to you guys, not you guys, but you guys, is 4 foot thick, and it was mined into Edgecombe and brought over. If you look at the doors, they had these locks. So there was like a bolt that went across here into the hole and then went up on here. Then there was another one that went into this hole and came down here, right? So they were both locked. Then there was this little, I don't even know. I guess you had to be, I like, there's no way I could look through that. And I don't even know if they.
I think a lot of times it was to do and undo shackles from what I
Well,
thought
they
of, so you had
had
to reach
a
out.
blacksmith on call. Don't lean against the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go in here for a second.
Go right ahead.
We'll let you. We just don't want to get the kids in it. That's why.
That's why I got aimed at my face.
Okay.
I got another one with an earbud for spirit.
Well, if you get a little bit of my kids, we're you just so they're
Yeah.
online, so don't be too worried about it.
All right,
It just said the devil this year. In shower.
come on in.
Right.
Okay, so this is a typical cell. The bed might have had 2 or 3 people. Maybe there was a second bed, I don't know. But this is actually an original bed. It's a replacement. I think the original beds might have been iron, and then they replaced them with wood at some point. The mattress, you probably learned this at the Chapman house, right? But the mattress is made out of rope. And then this straw, not the mattress, what would you
This
call this?
box
spring, you know?
Yeah.
And then this straw thing, and then whatever. And so when you said, you know, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, the tight part was put this implement into the rope and tighten it, so that the ropes of the mattress would get tighter. And of course, I'm sure this straw had some bed bug issues.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you learned this at Chapman House, because I really got to go there and see the tour. But we have your water bucket, your pee bucket, and your poo bucket.
Ooh, no, we did not learn that.
Okay,
Like-
and could you move from the light so we can see a little bit more? Yeah, the light source, okay. So we did have sailors, as I said, they did do a lot of graffiti. And so this is barely visible now because the lime deteriorates and there's really nothing you can do about it. So that is a photograph of the original graffiti that we found in the jail. It's very at latitude and longitude done by a sailor. It was probably done in the 1800s. There's other stuff that comes to light through the walls. The lime fades away. Other drawings come through. This is one. If you could step away from the light, thank you.
That's why I was trying to stay.
Let me just get my phone out of my pocket. Stop.
Do you need a flashlight?
No, it's all right. I'll just use mine. Okay. Naked son of my child. So, you can see that they've decided this is a British soldier because of his hat with the feather, the type of gun he's holding, and then there's a powder purse or magnet, that he has at his side. This is a letter written by one of the prisoners to family members apologizing. Here we have a star that's been coming out. There's some other graffiti in the other rooms, but as the walls deteriorate, the new graffiti can be revealed, and we just don't know.
Probably.
what's going to come through and what's not. Now, if you are somewhat familiar, I've ever heard of the Last Supper fresco in Milan, Italy, by I think it was Leonardo da Vinci, painted in wet plaster, which is called fresco, and they can't save it.
Yeah.
So if all the brilliant minds of the world can't save the Last Supper, it's going to be very famous.
Yeah.
We did have Ken Burns in here, a documentarian. Here, when he did his Revolutionary War series, he shot a hole here in this jail.
Really?
Yeah. Now I'm going that way.
I was gonna squeeze by so I
Okay.
can be out of the way.
Don't you always feel like you're in the way? Okay, guys,
Yeah.
you follow. They want you to go first. Okay.
I was gonna get so I can the bed and all some and
So just, I'm gonna get a picture.
the wooden, the little doors, artwork.
I just want a picture of this. Your kids are gonna want to tell Daddy about.
Right?
All the way across? All the way across? You can go back in there in a second. Just go all the way across so I can hear. Okay.
And this is the dark
So
one.
I'm gonna put my flashlight on again for a second. Okay, I just wanna point one thing out. This jail is over a river on this side. So this was a toilet. An original toilet, they had a hole, they carved it in granite, and it could drop in on that side. You can see there's some bat stuff here. I don't know
The
what.
bats used to
Is that a bat right there?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, that's why there's so much, okay.
He's sleeping.
Okay, I'll leave him alone.
It's a bat.
Yeah. So we filled in the hole, obviously, because we lost so many children. But wait here, don't move.
Oh, don't move.
Okay, so I'm gonna close this door. And you can
We're
see
right here.
in the middle of the day, well, I'll open it right away. You can see how dark it is.
Yeah.
This was solitary confinement. So this is why it's so dark in here.
Or
Yeah, you only
Hey, at
have
least you
That was
didn't
all
go
she
on
just wanted to show us how dark it was. She wasn't keeping
use
us.
this
You have a bat.
one of our
Okay.
cards so you could always check it out too.
Okay, thanks.
How about you go last?
Hold on. Turn on the light real quick. Brown eyes. There's a bat up there. Edge. So that everybody can see around. So brown face. Nice.
Is there another one?
Oh, is that one?
Maybe.
Is that
So these are some of the tools of the trade. These would have been for ankles. I don't know, maybe this would be for ankles too, because.
We found a bat in that one. So there's a bat in the back corner in that one. So be careful of the bat that's in there.
Okay.
Just so you know.
But, and this is a, lead lined sap, if you wanna try it, or hold it. It's, they would knock people's heads with it.
Look. Yeah,
I can imagine it would slow down prisoners trying to fight.
Yeah. It's, it's with that, I think it's called a sap. That's what it's called.
Yep. You wanna hold it? Hold your stuff.
I saw the phone in there real quick. I was like, that can't be from that. I was like, oh.
All right.
Use that hand. Go ahead.
No, do it the other way. I don't want you to hurt your hand.
Artwork there on the wall.
There's writing names.
Oh, yeah. I never noticed that.
Okay, I'm giving it back. Watch out for her thing.
Oh, and
I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close it. So typically the guards did not carry guns into the cells for reasons.
Uh-huh.
But there was a guard that was very afraid of the prisoners, and he came into a cell one day with his gun and his shaking and a stack of mail for prisoners in the cell. And the prisoners of course noticed how he operated and what he carried and how scared he was. So that day they actually handed him something and he put down his gun. So they said, here, take this, or they handed him some letters, or I forget what, but he put down his gun and they picked it up, and that day, that prison guard got locked up and all the prisoners went free. However, because, jogging wasn't a thing back in the 1800s, right? So you are running down the street, you're looking very suspicious. They were ringing the bells, they were chasing people down and things like that. So I don't know what happened with those 3 prisoners, but I think they definitely were caught. So that's one story, but normally maybe you wear a sap and just knock people on the head or something, right?
I know, we're still following.
Can you follow her?
You are compassionate. Said, I told the people that walked in the room behind us, the dark room, that there was a bat there and it said kindness. There's the tools and the cuffs and shackles.
Is done obviously ships that were in the harbor at the time in the 1800s. So, shooting his Revolutionary War documentary. But, and then, there's another thing that was just discovered the other, last couple of years. Now, this is hard to see, but,
That might work a little bit.
no, that doesn't help. But here's a hat.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just because of
It's like with like the things off the side and it goes up, and then this is a sword, and then there's some legs down, and then there's a sash. But I don't even know how people spotted that because somebody really had to show me. But like I said, stuff keeps coming through, and you don't know what's what. But
Kind of looks like the line just eats away at the layers of paint instead and it shows.
all right, let's go this way.
Guys, we're gonna keep following. So you know where you're going? Okay. So Samuel.
I'm sure there were people yelling out the window. Don't you think people were yelling out the window?
I just wanted to go back to work.
Oh, sorry.
So there's some cuts. Nobody actually escaped in this way. Nobody actually escaped through a door. They had to do trickery, like the dumb guard with the gun.
Yeah.
Like, what's down your gun? Well, that may be on you. But, so they think they might have taken some like rope or some kind of something and just did these cuts, but they didn't get far. To tell you the truth, it was probably shorter than their attempts to break out. So we're gonna go up to the next floor.
Okay, let's get out of the way.
I hope there's no bats in front.
Yeah, they're probably.
You ever seen bats before? I've seen a bat hanging upside
Okay,
down.
Abigail, come here.
It was
Can you take a picture of that? I'm going to make sure. I don't want to trip on my shoe walking up and then fall over and ruin the tour for everyone else. Here. I'm coming.
Kids Cove.
Kids Cove in Tennessee.
What is that?
It is a cove of land where a whole bunch of people live.
Oh, all right, keep walking through.
Sorry, I had to stop and tie my shoe because I didn't want to
That's
ruin
right.
the tour by tripping over myself.
We're
and falling.
missing anybody?
No,
No,
they weren't.
2 of mine went back.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. So another escape that occurred is that this is the 3rd floor of the jail, and there's an overhanging balcony there. Thank you.
This has nothing to do with your personality, I'm just telling
So somebody did jump from that balcony through that window, and it is literally unknown whether the window was open or closed, but they did go out that way. Careful on the stairs, we're just going up to the 2nd floor.
Really? They can jump that far? That's what I
I
was.
guess if you're desperate, right?
True.
It
Yeah.
is a long jump.
It's quite a jump. Especially if the window's not open. Like, do you have enough to grab onto it? Here.
There's a jungle.
Right. Railings there. It's more possible.
Climb the railing.
Violate.
I wasn't actually kidding. So if you were a good prisoner, highly suspicious, or you were being well behaved, you were allowed to sit in the hallway, and this is where the original bed type. Went downstairs, and you could sit, and they would allow you to sit out here and socialize. But they would shackle, and this is really heavy. You want to try picking it up? Here, just take it from me. Really heavy, right?
You're not getting anywhere fast.
Right. Definitely not running. That's why they kept her black.
Yeah, and also this is.
Yeah. Yep.
Careful, don't drop it on anyone's toe.
Okay, I got it.
And the one that's rusty.
So they would shackle the people sitting here by one ankle, right? And then you can see in the floor, there's like wear patterns from people sitting here. There's like divots and like kind of right here, there's a big one right here. And you know, they would just sit here, their shackles would either rub or their feet would rub. And so, you know, just, and this is original obviously to the jail. Another thing that happened here is that there were prisoners here temporarily from, I can't remember, there was another jail that got torn down. Was it the Lewiston one? No, but there was a jail that was a prison, not a jail. And they had murderers from the prison, 3 of them here while they renovated or did some kind of work in jail, and they were in the cell. And brother was using his son and daughter, teenagers, to help the prisoners. The son and daughter came into the cell to bring probably a pot of tea and the gingerbread. And the prisoners, because you were asking about the lime, had scraped lime from the walls and gotten big balls of it in their hands. And so when they walked into, the son and the brother and sister, when they walked into the cell to deliver the food, the boy was in front, the girl was in back, threw the lime ball at the guy's eyes. They missed the girl, or she ducked. So it kind of agitated his eyes and he couldn't see. The girl behind took the teapots and threw them at the prisoners. So one prisoner got very burned and stayed behind, but the other 2 ran. Again, if you're running in the 1800s, it's not for exercise, right? So people noticed that was going on, and they were returned to the Lewiston prison. But for the most part, there wasn't a lot of hardened criminals here, and I would say people even tried to stay here in the winter and try to get rested. You got food, you got a bed, you got a blanket, you know, you got some semblance of. And then down here are 2 different cells. They have doors. This one actually has a big cutout. Do you have any idea why they would have the big doors here?
Tested better prisoners.
No, they were sicker prisoners. So that this was a hospital where people, it was something they were worried about being contagious. They would keep them in here and they would look at them from the door. And I guess they considered them too sick or too weak to escape. Right, so that's why these doors look different.
But you wouldn't want to put them with the other prisoners, because they need all the prisoners.
Yeah, and I don't know how good the healthcare actually was. It originally had an iron door, right? But then they put this, and this is actually covered with lime too, this door. So,
Why did they cover everything with lime?
it was like a cheap way to, like, you know, like today we use, what's that wallboard that we use, not plywood, but
To make it look pretty, like, oh,
well, yeah, it's like plaster, right? And instead of having the chinks in the rock showing, and they would replaster with the lime like once a year or every 6 months or something like that. That's why so many layers are peeling off, and of course, nobody here replenishes it. That's not something they're gonna do. And keep in mind, if it's, you know, really cold outside in the winter, this window is gonna make you freezing. I don't know what they would put in here. Maybe they'd keep a little, I don't know, blankets to keep the prisoners warm, but, you know, there's
it
the,
doesn't look like that heat source is doing much.
Yeah.
Cold.
Cold in the middle of summer.
well, it's a little.
You just told the story about getting burned, and my device said burned.
Well, it's listening to me. So, yes, and on the 3rd floor, they kept men, but they were not regular prisoners. They were either debtors, that's people who owe money, in trouble for that, but they were not considered violent or dangerous, or there was people who are mentally insane, you know, or mentally, I don't know, you know, today, it's politically incorrect to say, oh, crazy people, but people who had mental illness or some kind of problem on the 3rd floor, and it was all a big room.
Probably people they didn't feel were super dangerous, but maybe not.
Yeah, we're talking about pink unicorns, or I don't know. But so.
Not someone who was crazy and they murdered someone. Someone who was crazy and they were like,
Yeah.
this person isn't safe by themselves.
Or, yeah, they're just being a pest in town and, you know. So anyway, And that's a device to monitor the movement in the jail and the only mark here would be that pipe coming up from the stove below, which is not a lot, that is not a lot.
But if you got the walls warm, like you kept it warm in the
And it was, if there was enough people too, we were all
easier to
sleeping in
stay
a bed together too,
Yeah.
you might have been like warm.
That was for the heat to come through the floors. Alright, we're going back down, continue.
I'm scared of stairs like this too.
Tiny stairwell.
This is the office where the jailer would sit, prisoners. He would take prisoners in through this door, and they would get processed here. Here are all the journals since even before this jail was built. They're copies. If you look at these cards, if you wanted to look through them, you were able to put email. Alton from Appleton, keeping a house. So, okay, she was here for 1 month. And we have a 23-year-old male. He, what's that? Somerville. Walker Cunningham. And he, I can't actually read that. What did he do?
No, that says died of consumption.
Oh, died of consumption. Okay, I was like, what did he do?
Yeah, that's what I was like. wait.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to look through these, you can see they're different females, different ages, different names. I did have a sheriff come through here who worked in Wiscasset. He was living on Edgecombe, and he had worked, I don't know, in Wiscasset, I'm guessing late 70s, early 80s. I and he would do this. He would go through the books, and he would say, oh yeah, I've known a lot of walkers, or because, I'm sure you know that a lot of families in town have lived here for generations. So the families that were the troublemakers, he would see their names and go, oh, I remember.
I know them.
Yeah, so he didn't arrest them, but he was just saying that name is very common to our people. But like, for example, on the corner here, called down on Route 1 in Federal, is called Nickel Sortwell. So, which is open to the public as well. It was a sea captain's mansion, and then it was the home of a wealthy family. But in town, there's a guy who lives up the street from me, and his name is Dan Sortwell, and he's connected to the Nickel Sortwell mansion. So my point is, the names are here forever. Like, I see the same names, that on the roads in some of the towns and things like that. So I just thought it was really funny as the sheriff looked, oh yeah, I know that family. Oh, I know that family. So anyway, I guess a generational history of the family. But you're welcome to look at any of the things that we have, or to go back and take pictures, and that's it. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.
Did you have a lot of was it a lot of 20-year-olds or a lot of 30-years-olds or?
In the jails?
Yep.
Well, you can look through.
Go ahead, look through.
Yeah, you can read all of them. You can read their crimes, and the crimes were pretty minor. There was one person I saw in there. It was a female. She was here because she had murdered her husband, but she was transferred to another jail.
Yeah.
Because I think the more serious criminals really were kept someplace else.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's like the friendliest place in the, but I don't think it was terrible.
Yeah.
Hi. How are you? Are you guys here for the tour?
Yes.
Okay, can you step outside? I'll be out in a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna get going because we got
Can
time.
you do me a favor and sign in? Yes. You as well? You guys?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's right. They came after. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we
okay.
came right as you were starting.
Yeah.
Thank you for, do you want these returned to their things, or do we get to take those home with
Oh,
us?
take them, please. Not the pens, but
Yeah, I put the,
Hello. Hi, friend. Yes, I do see
thank you
you.
very much.
I was gonna try and see the one that said Somerville. Just
Oh, she shuffled it, so.
Because we're from Somerville and we're in an old house, and I'm pretty sure that name might be like the neighboring property back then or ours.
Yep. We're headed home. Okay,
Rat.
did you want to take photos?
Use these photos. Did
Yeah. I took some already.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Walter Cunningham. He was a neighbor
you.
of our
Bye, have a
property.
nice day.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
glad
There's
you're
another
here.
person, so.
And I gotta go check on rat torture, and I'm good for a sec.
I know.
Alright. Yeah, I got over 44 videos, so thank you all for watching. We're gonna go take a break real quick, and we'll be and we'll show you some more possibly. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Peace.